about to start, so be ready.
Okay, I'll wait a little bit for John to get going. And okay, I think everybody's here. So I'll call this meeting to order of the PFD for July 26, 2021. So first order of business is approval of the minutes from June 28th, 2021.
So motion.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Okay. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. And then do we have any public comment, Mike?
Let me take a look and see. I don't see a hand up. I don't see a Q&A. Going once. Going twice. No public comment.
Okay. I guess we can move right on to the progress report for Port Gamble.
All right, let me get Eric and Alex into the meeting.
Mike, do you need to record or does BCAT record?
Pardon, John?
I didn't know if you needed to record or if BCAT records on our behalf.
BCAT is recording, but I will record as a
Recording in progress.
There you go.
That's the suspenders in the belt.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having us today. Can you allow me to share my screen, Mike?
Oh, yes, I need to promote you even farther. I need to make you a co-host so that you can share screen. We got you covered now?
I believe so. I believe I am good to go. Oops, let that go away. Okay, can everybody see my screen or see a screen?
Yep,
Yes.
go for it.
All right, well, excellent. Well, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your time. We are here to pretty much tell you how things have been going associated with the Port Gamble project. Mike has been attending a number of our steering committee meetings, and it's been great to have him aboard so we can kind of see some of the inner workings of this multifaceted project. So again, just to remind everybody, what we're talking about here is we're talking about a project with three main components. The first of which is a ride park, which is being done in two phases. The first of which is a series of trails and learning center. The second phase is parking and restrooms. There is the design of and permitting of the Sound Olympics Trail northern portion, which is the part that connects up Port Gamble and then wraps around to the ride park itself. And then lastly would be the Stottlemyre Trailhead. I think a number of you have been down to the existing Stottlemyre Trailhead, or wide spot in the road as we'd call it. This is a much more robust trailhead that I will cover a little more on where we are with that. And then I guess the last component, which isn't actually an on-the-ground construction or design element, is a overall master plan for the entirety of the 3,500 acres. This master plan will incorporate these anchor projects that I just described and be able to show what other possibilities might be available for this 3,500 acres given site limitations, easements, and covenants that are on the property from how we acquired it, etc. So that's just kind of a summary of all the various moving parts in our project. These are just some basic images of what we're looking at in regards to mountain biking, and then master planning. Again, we have a beautiful park with a lot of opportunities. So kind of walking through the ride park, I think I already just kind of described this. The phase one is 10 miles of trails and a training skills area. And then phase two is the more active recreation, clearing, grading, parking area, restrooms, and then the access road. The access road will connect up to the northern part of the park. That will then continue from there down into the town site, but that roadway is being paid for by Rainier, previously Pope Resources. So again, taking a look at, this is the 10 miles of trails. We went and have received permits, and this component is currently under construction right now. So hopefully come fall, many of these trails are going to be open. What you're going to see here is a series of different colored lines. These lines basically show the challenge associated with using them. Again, the idea of this ride park isn't just to have trails in the woods. We have a number of places with trails in the woods, but places for an entire family to come of differing skill levels, differing ages, and be able to operate at the same facility. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a main easy to access spine road, and then some more challenging trails, some more technical trails, etc. So that's under permit, and we're hoping that we'll see that constructed come this fall, and you folks can go out and experience it. Phase 2, we are currently working on a location for the parking lot, etc. I think, as you remember from the last map I showed you here, we had originally always kind of thought that to keep the parking area as far out of the interior of the park as possible, we would put it up in the northernmost portion. This here is the ride park that I showed you with all the trails running through it. But as we're working through the master plan, we are looking to see where some other potential activities could occur. And if you note here on this image, you're going to see a series of cleared areas. These cleared areas may be available for other opportunities, which I'll discuss here in a little bit. So the question being is, do we build the parking lot all the way up at the northern part and then have to deal with parking for this, for whatever we put down here, or do we move the parking lot down to a part that is more centrally located to the ride park? That would require vehicular access that comes down into the park itself further than we had originally planned. But I think there are pluses and minuses to both. The master plan is looking very carefully at those, especially when we're talking about what other types of activities we could be looking for. So there are some pros and cons on that. Anybody have any questions about that? Because I know that Alex and I have questions on a daily basis. Okay, so working on that, we do have a legal easement for access to the northern part of the ride park, the access road that'll lead to wherever we put the parking lot and the ride park. We do have a legal access, and we are currently negotiating timing of the construction of the roadway. That'll either be a temporary roadway, graveled, etc., in the near term, or could be the full fare, fully robust, paved bike lane, full roadway that leads up from the town to our park. Obviously, we would like the permanent roadway, but there's a timing issue of it. We would like the permanent roadway today, but unfortunately, the permanent roadway would take substantially more time. So it's another element that we're kind of working through. The Sound to Olympics Trail, this is being run by Public Works. Alex is with the Parks Director, and I'll introduce him here in a minute. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the Sound Olympics Trail, again, this is a paved, actually a transportation element that this is intended for commuters and recreators as well, 10 to 14 foot paved surface. There may also be an equestrian amenity, which wouldn't necessarily be paved, but might run alongside that is more graveled. We're kind of working our way through that as some of the areas of this have been challenging to design and maybe even more challenging to construct at 10 to 14 feet. Again, this is the trail system that connects up Bainbridge Island and Kingston to the Discovery Trail on the other side of the Hood Canal Bridge. So the idea being is that when this trail is fully constructed, we are a lot closer to being able to connect up the ferry terminal in Kingston to the Hood Canal Bridge. Hopefully we can stop some of the tourists who come through our community to the Olympic Peninsula to stop and enjoy Kitsap County rather than moving straight out to the Olympics by providing these types of amenities. And then lastly, we have the Stottlemyre Trailhead and parking area. This is going to be probably 1.5 acres to a 2-acre parking, which will include a series of single-car parking stalls, space for a future restroom, but not necessarily a restroom in day one, and then a series of 60-foot long equestrian horse trailer parking. That's something that's currently not available. When you see that down on our existing trailhead, it pretty much takes up a majority of the parking. This is intended to provide that amenity so that the horse users can enjoy the southern end of the park a lot easier than they have been so far. So the status of this is we have a consultant on board for segments A, B, and D. That's that red area I just showed you. That effort and your commitment, again, has leveraged $2 million for the construction of this trail. Again, that's one of the things we talked about, the importance of the PFD money. It isn't just to do what you're paying us to do, but it is the ability to access additional funds by showing momentum. So again, the construction is about a $3 million total project. We have $2 million currently available. So that may lead to some additional asks moving forward so we can get that component constructed. And then the Stottlemyre Trailhead is in design. We have a consultant that is also on board for that. He is looking at a number of alternatives, as well as working with the master plan. The development of the master plan has been interesting, as it's bringing forth a lot of ideas we hadn't thought of before. They're great ideas. The downside is because we hadn't thought of them before, we have to include them in the contract for the design of these other amenities, which we are trying very hard to ensure moves in a linear manner versus fits and starts back and forth. And so far we've been successful, but it has been a continued challenge. So lastly, the master plan. I think a number of folks maybe in this room have been participating in the master plan process. This is, of course, not the master plan for the North Kitsap Heritage Park, but an example of what a master plan for a large-scale park would look like. Basically what we've been doing is we've been reaching out to the public in a phased master planning process. So we started out with a series of public outreach, which basically indicated, hey, we're doing a master plan up here. We're really interested in getting you involved, establishing a series of stakeholders ranging from the tribes to the Audubon Society to the North Kitsap Trails Association, the Evergreen Mountain Biking Association. I forgot to mention that they are a key component of the construction of the ride park right now. So you see a good balance between recreation and conservation uses. In some of our parks, those can be somewhat conflicting, as a lot of the conservation folks really just kind of want it to remain natural. The recreation folks really are thinking about, well, how can it remain natural while I am also enjoying it as a mountain biker? So after we went and kind of reached out to the public started coming to a series of meetings. Those meetings were kind of a brainstorming. What could this park be? What are some of the activities that Kitsap County does not have quite as much of or quite as expansive as we'd like? And then we had a follow-up meeting after we kind of collected all those, and we did some series of polls, basically with new folks who have come forward, some of the same, some new. That went through and said, okay, on the priority list, where do a lot of these rank? And again, there's a lot of conservation related uses on the site. A lot of folks would like to preserve as many trees as possible. There are a number of other efforts on the sidelines that are working to preserve trees, but there's also the restoration aspects of once the Rainier comes and cuts the trees, which they're allowed to do one more time. How are we going to restore this? Is it going to be strictly a forest, a diverse forest, or are we going to allow some other opportunities for viewscapes? If you get up to the northern part where that ride park is going to be, there are going to be particular portions you can stand and you can almost see both mountain ranges. So obviously, replanting new trees might obstruct some of those viewscapes. So another thing the master plan is looking at is how can we maintain those viewscapes? Is there both a recreation and a conservation benefit to having maybe some pastures, not cow pastures, but I mean wildflower pastures, those types of things that are part of the restoration of components of this park as it's constructed, all right, as it's restored. Another thing this master plan included, which I think possibly a couple of you might have attended, was we did a panel of exactly what forest restoration looks like. It comes in a lot of different forms. Some people believe that when you buy open space, you don't touch it. You just walk away and you walk through it. That is a fire danger. That is also not great for habitat, and it's also not great for wildlife. So some form of active management is necessary. So this panel kind of went through all the various opportunities about how some selective thinning is always beneficial, even if we didn't have the clear cuts. Some selective thinning is beneficial to kind of spread out and allow some additional understory. That's been very helpful in the education of the public as we've been moving through this master plan process. So pretty much where we are today is we've gone through, and again, we brainstormed, we took a lot of ideas, we kind of fleshed them out, and then did a public survey, both at a public meeting, but also done through a series of online elements as well, and we rolled these out to our individual stakeholders for their feedback. That information has all come in, and we're in the process of developing a series of 3 alternatives. Ranging from the least intensive, most on the conservation end, to most intensive, higher on the recreation end, and then something that kind of falls in the middle. Some of the ideas that have been kicked around that might be within the realm of what the covenants on the land would allow would be some glamping, glamour camping, basically camping in yurts or things of that nature. An amphitheater. Another thing that your funding has allowed us to leverage is up to $500,000 may be donated for some kind of a viewing platform / amphitheater. When I say amphitheater, I don't mean a big concrete structure like the Gorge. I'm thinking more about those smaller amphitheaters where folks can sit. There might be music played, minor music. And folks are able to view the beauty that is either the Olympics or the Cascades, depending on how an amphitheater would be directed, and be out in nature. So, and then lastly, we have an adventure park, and then some of on the more high intensity might be an education center. Obviously, a big chunk of this park is intended to increase the public's knowledge of both forest restoration, which is going to be a huge component of this park for the next 30 years, as well as the wildlife, flora, and fauna that can be found on here. And one of our stakeholders being the local tribes, exactly what the cultural aspects of this land has been over time. That could take a number of forms, including the cultivation of native, culturally important plants to the Port Gamble, S'Klallam, and Suquamish tribes. There's a lot of opportunities here, and an education center might be a great opportunity for that. So again, these alternatives are being developed. At our next briefing, I'll be able to bring you designs of designs of a number of the things that we're going to be in the process of building, as well as these alternatives. Mike again, and I believe another member of the PFD has been open to attending our stakeholder meetings. At the end of this, I probably will want to reach out to see exactly how else the PFD would like to be involved as we move forward. So I'm going to pause there because I'm running out of oxygen in my own room for any questions that you guys might have about. So let's do the master plan, and then we can kind of roll back up into the other things I talked about.
Questions?
I've got a comment. As I have attended several of the meetings, particularly on the master plan, want to get a feel for what the future planning may be, particularly as it relates to economic development. Most of the people are behind doing some restoration. They're all about recreation and having it as natural as possible. Of course, we have an interest in those aspects of it that may generate revenue, to bring revenue into the county and into the park system. So there's a balance that needs to occur. And I'm interested to see how that continues to develop.
Yeah, one of the elements of this will be an economic feasibility study. Obviously, when you think economic development, you assume things that are getting built. There's also the benefit of fully restored forest in a more conservation status. So there it is. People are coming to this park, to be able to do things, but to do things in a certain type of environment. So I think that's pretty much where the recreation and conservation could marry most. I think with the economic feasibility aspects of our new proposals are going to look at the direct benefit and the direct economic benefits of some of these glamping or other activities. But also we're going to be taking a look at the secondary impacts to the Port Gamble town site, which will be bringing in a substantial amount of revenue during its redevelopment. And these amenities are going to be a big component of that, as well as tourism coming in and through our community. So we will be doing all of that in this master plan, and it will be included in our draft for your review and consideration. Alex, you've been participating very strongly in this master plan. Is there anything you'd like to add that I either A, left out, or B, got wrong?
Not particularly, unless there are specific questions. You kind of did a very good umbrella capture of everything that we're covering and working on. I've been, pretty, impressed since day one when I got hired 6 months ago to come into this project, and really excited to take part in it. It is very well funded, very well thought out and structured so far. The communication, the outreach to the community, and the community involvement has been, forefront at the, every movement that we're making to make sure that the voice of the community is definitely embedded in this project and will end up being, the result that we walk away with. So, no, I think you captured everything so far where we're at. I mean, I think we're going to have a really exciting project and really good park and product here, not only for the community, but also for tourism and attracting folks coming from across the water and elsewhere in our region. This is unlike any amenity that we have in our vicinity. So it's pretty exciting.
Good news for you guys is that Alex is getting up to speed very, very quickly, which means in these future briefings, you will hear less of me, or someday maybe none of me, and more of Alex, which most people view as a pleasant alternative.
So I have a question. First comment, and I think you guys have done a really great job scoping this out. But I'm fast forwarding to post-construction and how the operation works. Do you envision that there will be a fee structure for users? And if not, where does the funding come for maintenance and ongoing operational costs?
Well, currently we do have the parks budget that does have a maintenance component in this. We have put a certain amount of conservation futures funding in here, which does allow for some ongoing maintenance from there. We have a lot of really great stewardship groups in Kitsap County and all of its heritage parks. I will say the one in Port Gamble is the largest and the most excited to get moving. So there is going to be a substantial stewardship component coming from our private stewards that are going to help with funding from the Parks Department. And then additionally, when it comes to any kinds of fees that are generated, at this point, probably if we moved into some of these higher order uses like glamping, amphitheater, and adventure park, there's obviously going to be user fees located there. But due to the size of this park and the general difficulty and cost of bringing in or actually collecting the revenue to a number of our parks, that's not something currently that the master plan is looking at too heavily. The public have frowned on the idea just due to the fact that there's probably so many different places to get into this park, so many different places to get to the ride park, that it would be more of an administrative hassle than we would actually make out of it. But yes, at this point, the county is committed to using parks funding. Also, we are viewing this as more of a recreation area. I think this has the name Heritage Park. So when people think of that, they think of the North Kitsap Heritage Park, they think of the Newberry Hill Heritage Park. Probably when this is getting close to completion, it's going to operate maybe a little bit more like the fairgrounds in regard to a recreational area, which may require some additional effort and focus of the county general fund as we move forward, especially as this is going to be, as Alex indicated, a amenity unlike any other that we have in the region.
If I could just add on to that too, depending on what the build out looks like and the type of activities here, whether it's glamping or adventure park or education center, there's also opportunities built into the design here that would allow for private-public partnership, so that not all of the burden of providing these services to the community may end up falling on the shoulders of the county and the Parks Department. That there are partnering opportunities for, like currently with EMBA, with Evergreen Mountain Biking Association, for maintenance and operation and oversight of the ride park, and one other trail segment within the park as well. That they come in with a certain amount of expertise and skill and resource that we don't have, and we can leverage partners to help provide those activities for the general upkeep of the park and providing those activities to the community. So there are other ways to look at it simply than leveraging tax dollars.
Do we have any other comments, questions? No? Well, thank you very much, Eric and Alex. Seems like it's coming along really, really well.
Well, great. Just to conclude, I kind of want to let you guys know what the schedule for some of these elements are going to be just briefly. You'll be seeing a lot more of designs and other things coming forward in the Q3 briefing. But the ride park, again, we are expecting construction to be completed this fall. The design should be completed for the parking area again this fall. This is the parking area for the ride park, so we will have determined exactly where along the ride park we're going to be putting the parking and the access road and the bathrooms. Sound Olympics Trail, the design for that is not intended to be completed until the end of 2022. It is several miles of engineered trail, and again, as a transportation element versus a recreation element, the design features are substantially higher. And then lastly, we'll be bringing forth the preliminary alternatives to you in Q3 of 2021. So next briefing should be very, very robust. Again, I really appreciate your folks' time, your commitment, your advocacy, and your funding that has helped us get to where we are today and is going to get us to make this park, again, unlike anything that we have in the region.
Eric, are you going to do any further update on the schedule which you provided before? Is there any change in that, or is that third quarter 2021 reflected in what you've given us so far?
Fingers crossed that everything that I am planning right now comes to fruition and matches the Excel spreadsheet. There is pluses and minuses for being as detailed as we were and when we're going to be expending money. Is that it requires a certain amount of planning, and then it also requires a certain amount of luck. So far, thanks to the additional year that you've given us, we have been lucky.
And the last comment I had, I haven't seen many invoices from the county yet, so it was difficult to judge what kind of progress you're making because it's not showing up in invoices for work being done.
The second invoice actually will be in your email box either this evening or tomorrow morning. We have been trying to combine them all rather than doing them on a monthly basis. Fortunately, we do have a certain amount of reserves, and from an administrative aspect, we'd like to gather up as many as possible to make the invoices larger rather than kind of trickling them in on a monthly basis. But I guess I would indicate what is the PFD's druthers? Would it be better for us to be submitting them on a monthly basis, or more on the quarterly? And I think this one's a little more than quarterly basis.
Yeah. No, quarterly would be fine. The other projects are typically billing monthly, so we've got a pretty good idea of what progress is being made on what items in their list. Less so for you guys. So if you've got an invoice coming in, I'll take a look at it and see how much that covers and how many dollars it is. And I'll get back to you. Quarterly may be fine, but every other month may be better. But we can talk about that after I look at your next invoice.
Sounds great. We can do any of those. Well, thank you. I will stop sharing my screen. And I want to thank you guys for this evening.
Well, thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Yep.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Very nice to meet
Thank you.
everybody.
So let's move on to the financials. Mike, do you have the financial stuff?
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh.
Yes, I do. I'm going to share.
They continue to amaze me. I saw this month's and yeah.
I think we should have a pool amongst the board on when we get our first $200,000 month.
I mean, we've come really close already.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too when I was looking at this before. Not far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you seeing this or am I not sharing that?
Not sharing.
Okay. Share
Hey.
screen. There we go.
Yeah.
So yes, that's going to be interesting because, as you said, we are at the halfway point in the year, and we are right at $1 million collected so far. And typically the second half of the year is a little stronger. So I think we're looking at our first $2 million revenue year in 2021. And who'd have thunk it when we started out in the pandemic just a little over a year ago. The rest of the information on this month, it was 177.3, basically up 40% over last year. But because that's a COVID year, it's still up about 25% over 2019. The debt service removed and our expenses net to cash, $87,500. Any questions about the revenue portion? Okay. The first page of the financials is the budget page for the 968 or operations fund. Oops, too much. Let me go back down here. All right. So as Susan had mentioned before, we've consumed about $110,000 of our budget, which is a little behind what the amount for the 235,000 a year. We may still have to put a little more money. I started off with 180,000 at the beginning of the year. I suspect we may go over 200,000, depending upon the costs in legal and in construction consulting this year. But we're still in good shape if we look at the balance in the 977 account, our cash account or our construction account. There's still $3.7 million in there. And that's why I wanted to get a little better handle on what the expenses were from the county for the ride park and so on, since that construction has started. So I can get a better handle on what the drain may be on that 977 account.
Hey, Mike,
Yep,
on that screen you were just at that had the 3.7.
yep.
Going up into the 977 account. So we've got the liabilities for the PFD Regional Center for 822. You got to scroll up further. Or wait a minute, why is it? Oh, there's the revenue side. Yeah, there you go. So that 822 for the, so regional, PFD Regional Center, is that, I get confused the way they're all named with initials.
Yeah, that's the conglomerate of the 977 account. And what Susan and I have done have taken money and allocated it to the projects. That's money that hasn't been spent yet, but it's temporarily transferred to the projects based on what their projections are.
So it's a negative liability. I'm trying to get my head around that.
A negative liability. Yeah, unfortunately, Susan isn't available. She'd probably have a better explanation than I on that.
Yeah, you know, I'll email Susan because I just wanted to get a breakdown and understand how negative liability works. So
Yeah.
when I talk to her, I'll drop it back to the board.
Okay. And the last report is where the expenses for the various projects are located and where they're paid out of the 977 account. But I don't see, that doesn't add up to 800 and some $1,000. So I've got questions about that too.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, when you're looking at that same part, Mike, will we be adding a section for the Port of Bremerton? You see the three other
For
Gotcha.
Bremerton?
I don't see
Oh,
the
for the
circuit.
Circuit of the Northwest?
Yeah, in Port of Bremerton.
Yeah. There's nothing in there right now because we're not going to be paying the first payment to them of $144,000 until March of next year. But we could probably make an allocation in here with some designation. I'll talk to Susan and see how we can best represent that to account for the invoices that that the board's approving for payment by these Port of Bremerton, but are not actually coming out of our cash. So we'll see what the best way is to display that, of accounting for it, but not showing that it's a liability to us until we start making payments next year. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the financials? Okay, so let me zoom this back out. This is the voucher, blanket voucher for our expenses. I haven't got this adjusted so that Darren shows as vacant, but before this is put in the books, I will adjust that. The total amount of expenses, $6,621.64 for legal services, construction services, and our membership to KETA. That's an annual membership, so that's a one-time a year charge. Any questions about the blanket voucher?
I move approval of the blanket voucher.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Walt.
I'll second.
That was Phil?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. You're muted, Pat.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I wondered
Okay.
why you weren't taking charge there.
Yeah. One day we'll be done with Zoom meetings. That'll be so nice.
Yeah.
So, any discussion on this? Nope. All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, the blanket voucher's approved.
We want to identify which blanket voucher because we have two, correct?
Oh, yeah, we do.
That was the
This is the-
expenses
Yes,
voucher.
the expenses blanket voucher for $6,621.64. We'll move on to the second one now.
Yes. And whoops, let's see, where did I put it? Okay, it's out of out of sequence. This is the second one. This is the blanket voucher for the director stipends. And this covers a period from Q3 and Q4 of 2020 and the first quarter of 2021.
You have some.
The total is $3,200.
Did those match the ones you sent us out?
It should, yes.
I just glanced at mine and.
Yeah, I did too, and it didn't look the same to me.
Yeah, like I thought both of mine were 200 even. I mean, I didn't really look, but that doesn't match 350. So
Yeah,
that's different.
Bill Mahan and Rick Smith are on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's my fault. I copied and pasted and I must have copied and pasted something from the first part of, 2020. So I'll redo that. The order that goes is Darren, the $600 is for Pat Hatchell. The other $600 is Walt, where it is. The $400, hang on one second. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, the dollars aren't right.
Yeah.
Um,
Too.
so do we want to just carry this over to the next meeting when we get the updated one?
Well, the total is correct. I'll give you a corrected apportionment of that. I think you'll want to approve the total, and I'll get the right names and the right numbers there.
Okay. So I think we'll just do this at the next meeting then, since it's just our stipends and it's not super time pressing.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Works for me. If I had tax money, I could burn mine.
Okay, noted that this is tabled. My apologies. I worked all afternoon on that and still screwed it up at the end. Okay. The other item is the blanket voucher for the Paulsbo project. And again, I will remove Darren. This was put in before Darren had notified me that he was not going to be here. So that's $9,253.35 for project costs and expenses for the perk.
Move to approve as.
And my apologies, that's also wrong. Boy, I'm batting 1,000 tonight. That number should be for grant number 818, and that amount is $7,275.65.
So what's the backup?
Yeah, the backup shows 9253.35 on the next page, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, but you see, that's
Isn't that last month?
and the batch number is not correct.
Yeah.
That's the wrong one.
So if we put this one off until the next meeting in order to correct it, does that work as any kind of a hardship on Paulsbo?
Yeah, it does. Hang on 1 second. Let me pull the right thing up and you will see that. Let me stop my share for a moment. I will get the right information up. And obviously I grabbed the wrong thing.
Can you bring Tom back into the equation as well? He's not up here. It looks like he got put in attendance.
Oh. Sorry, Tom. Don't know how you got kicked out, but
Yeah.
okay, perk. We are looking at 566,714.
Pat, is there another item we can work on while Mike's getting that?
I don't think so. The financial stuff all involves Mike.
Okay, hang on 1 second here. Let me share this. All right. We are looking at blanket voucher 566714 in the amount of $7,275 and change. And this is the voucher for that in that amount. And this is the backup from the city of Paulsbo for the proper grant number and the proper amount. The wrong one got included into the packet, and I'll correct that before it goes out onto the internet.
Okay.
This
You
is
need to pull Darren's name off of that one too.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to approve this blanket voucher. I'm okay doing it with this one to get them their money.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, the blanket voucher, or all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so the blanket voucher, 7,275 and 65 cents passes.
And that, who was the move and second?
Tom's motion.
John seconded.
John second. Thank you very much. Okay, the last item in the financial section, I'm going to stop sharing this and share the original one. Wrong one. There are two POB Port of Bremerton invoices totaling $114,509. That's not the one I want to share.
And I know you sent this over to Barker Creek. Have they passed approval on them?
Let me bring Cynthia from Barker Creek in. I haven't seen an email about that from Barker Creek, but Cynthia, as soon as she comes in.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Well,
Yeah.
we can hear
Yes.
you. We can't see you.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, Shannon, I think those are almost done being reviewed. He said he doesn't see any issue with them. He was checking one more thing, and I think he was gonna make a quick phone call to you, Mike. But at this point, they look like there's not a problem with them. But I do think he wants to follow up with you real quick before he sends those back, but you could see those back tomorrow.
Okay.
No, Mike, we don't pay these anyway. The port pays them.
Oh, yeah. This is just to clear.
We'll pay for them eventually, starting
Right.
next spring.
So
Correct.
do we need to approve them like we've done? I can't even remember. Did we have to approve them with a vote?
Yeah, we have to approve them to say that
Yeah.
they can pay it and there won't be any recriminations from us saying,
So they know they can collect it from us when the time
Right.
comes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll move to approve two invoices totaling, I just wrote that down, 114,509.25.
And I'll second Aaron's motion.
Okay, any discussion? No?
Want to wait till Barker Creek gives us the okay like we did last time?
Yeah, you guys will see it tomorrow. Shannon had sent me an email beforehand. He said he'll get that out to you guys first thing in the morning.
But everything does look good up.
Yes,
No.
there's no issues.
Okay,
So there's no issues. Okay.
no issues. No, I'll take that back then.
Any more discussion? All in favor of approving the Port of Bremerton invoice? Aye.
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 And any nays? Nope. So the Port of Bremerton invoice approval carries.
All right.
And it doesn't appear we have any new business at all.
There is none.
And everyone has read the activity reports. Any other comments before we adjourn?
My agenda says there was one new business item.
There was what?
My agenda shows there was one new business item.
There was the draft agenda Mike sent around that has one, but then he sent around an updated one that took that
Well,
off. I don't know why.
Okay,
Yeah, the final doesn't show any,
thank
but
you.
I sent out
Yeah,
this
I think
morning.
it came off on the final.
First day back from vacation, so I'm not sure which one.
That's okay.
So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Well, I have one comment first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I attended the Food Truck Fest last weekend, not last week, weekend before. I was doing athletic things this last weekend. So the weekend before, the Food Truck Fest was an enormous success. In the afternoon, they had to pause selling tickets 2 or 3 different occasions until some people left and they could let more people in. They did have a fenced area in the area to the south of the pavilion. Not the President's Hall, but the other one. Anyway, the grassy area where they do the concerts and stuff was just covered in vendors and food trucks and people. It was tremendously successful. And I suspect that two things might happen. One is they made enough money, they don't need any more from us, or they want to make it even bigger and they'll take a larger area of the fairgrounds in which to stage it, and they'll want to do more marketing dollars in order to grow it. So we'll see what they come back with, but through my attendance there, it was a smashing success.
Well, good.
And didn't we give them the full 5,000 for?
We granted them the full 5,000. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was last year.
Right.
So
No, I mean,
this-
but that's what they used to advertise this one.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Nope.
Not for me.
Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting then. This is short. All right.
All right. Right.
Thank you,
on,
Pat.
Everybody.
All right.
right on.
Good night.
Pat.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good job, Patrick.
Oh, well, thank you.